Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's be real for a second. Literally nothing strikes universal dread into the heart of a homeowner quite like the sound of rushing water where it absolutely shouldn't be, right? Today, we're doing something kind of different and honestly pretty fascinating. We're going to take a hyper-local look at the literal ground beneath a very specific place, Belton, Missouri, and we're going to use it as a masterclass to reveal some incredibly universal consumer secrets about the entire plumbing industry. Whether you're right there in the Midwest or 1,000 miles away, the hidden mechanics under the soil and the business practices of the pros who fix them, well, they affect all of us. So by the end of this explainer, you're going to have a total insider's perspective on how to protect your home and, just as importantly, your wallet.
So, here's our game plan for today. We're going to tackle the Belton Plumbing Challenge, look at Silverline's professional approach, break down the true cost of plumbing, learn how to spot fake plumbers, and finally, wrap up with some smart hiring secrets. Let's just dive right in.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the Belton Plumbing Challenge. You know, we rarely think about the pipes buried beneath our properties until, well, something goes catastrophically wrong. But the reality, there is a high-stakes, literal ticking time bomb playing out right now beneath thousands of residential homes. Think about established neighborhoods like those in Belton. A lot of these homes were built between the 1970s and 1990s. Back then, galvanized steel and polybutylene pipes were the absolute gold standard. But here's the massive catch. Those materials had a lifespan, and guess what? We are hitting the absolute end of it right now. Galvanized steel literally corrodes from the inside out. It chokes off your water pressure, gives you that nasty, rusty water. And those polybutylene lines, oh man, they become incredibly brittle with age. They can just suddenly fail without a single warning sign. So we're reaching this critical era where these hidden, outdated materials are starting to rupture, causing massive, unseen water damage way before you even realize there's a leak.
And it's not just the age of the pipes. The environment itself places immense physical stress on these aging systems. Take our case study of Belton and Cass County, for example. The expansive clay soil there acts almost like a giant sponge. It absorbs moisture and swells up, and then it dries out and shrinks. This constant, relentless shifting literally pulls apart underground sewer lines and just snaps pipes right in half. Now add in the local hard water, which leaves behind heavy mineral deposits that just gunk up your water heaters and fixtures. And top it all off with brutal winter freeze-thaw cycles that attack any exposed lines. Wow! You can see why this isn't just about old pipes anymore. It's a full-on, ongoing battle against the local ecology.
Which brings us to Section 2, Silverline's professional approach.
So how in the world do we bring order to all this underground chaos? While local experts, specifically Silverline Plumbing in Kansas City, tackle these very distinct, hyper-local geographical challenges using an incredibly simple three-step service process. Because let's be honest here, complexity is the absolute enemy when your basement is actively flooding, right? First up is contact and dispatch. You call, a real actual human answers the phone, and they figure out the urgency. Step 2 is diagnosis and approval. They find the root cause, whether it's that clay soil shifting or a burst pipe, they explain it to you without all that confusing jargon, and they give you an upfront flat rate price. Basically, you know the exact cost before a single wrench turns. And finally, completion and testing. They do the repair and, this is key, they test everything before they leave to make absolutely sure it actually works. It's a structure built completely on transparency.
Beyond just the repair itself, true professionals seamlessly navigate the strict legal and safety realities of the job. They don't just guess out there. They strictly follow the International Plumbing Code. They pull the required city permits for major work, things like water heater replacements or full repiping, and they know exactly how to manage local quirks. For instance, ensuring your water pressure sits safely right between 40 and 80 psi, so it doesn't just completely blow out your fixtures. Following these codes, it isn't just annoying red tape. It's exactly what protects your property value and your family's safety.
Moving right along to Section 3, the true cost of plumbing. Okay, now we're going to pivot away from that local soil ecology to a macro perspective. Let's uncover the universal economic realities of the contracting industry. $75 to $150. That right there is the standard hourly rate you can expect to pay a legitimate licensed plumber. Now you might be wondering why such a massive range. Well, if you just need a basic faucet replacement on a random Tuesday afternoon, you're looking at the lower end. But if a pipe bursts at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, or you need highly specialized gas line work, yeah, you're definitely commanding the higher end of that range to account for their immediate availability and advanced expertise. Knowing this baseline is super important because it protects you from being wildly overcharged.
Here is a little insider secret.
Every single homeowner needs to know the 135 rule. Sometimes people will look at an invoice, they'll see a $100 part billed at $135, and they immediately feel cheated. But the 135 rule is actually a very standard pricing guideline. That 1.35 multiplier, it covers the plumber's licensing, their liability insurance, keeping their vehicles running, warranty coverage, and yes, of course, their profit margin. You see, you aren't just paying for a piece of PVC pipe. You're paying for the true cost of skill, reliability, and honestly, the peace of mind that comes from hiring a legit business that will actually pick up the phone if something goes wrong a week later.
That being said, you still need to be incredibly vigilant about hidden costs. These are the sneaky things that can suddenly inflate your final bill. For example, sometimes an initial quote won't actually include the city permit fees, or the disposal charge to haul away your giant broken water heater. Or, get this, maybe the plumber discovers your main shutoff valve is completely corroded, so they have to replace that before they can even touch the main repair. And if you're dealing with that shifting clay soil we talked about, you might even be looking at foundation stabilization costs. So the golden rule here, always ask for an itemized estimate. That way you're armed with practical knowledge and you can totally avoid that sudden invoice shock.
All right, let's get into Section 4, Spotting Fake Plumbers.
Unfortunately, the contracting industry has its fair share of bad actors who just want to take advantage of you during a crisis. So I want to shift our tone a bit here because I want you fully protected against these scammers. Here is exactly how you spot a fake plumber before they ever even pick up a tool. First up, unmarked vans and a random, messy assortment of tools thrown in the trunk. Red flag. Second, they start pressuring you for an immediate, full cash payment before they've even started working. Huge red flag. Legit plumbers earn their payment after the job is done. Third, they actively try to talk you out of pulling city permits. Fourth, they hesitate or suddenly make up excuses when you ask to see their state license or insurance certificate. And finally, they give you vague verbal estimates instead of a written, itemized breakdown. Listen, if you see literally any of these signs, end the conversation immediately. Just walk away.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, Smart Hiring Secrets.
Let's see how all of this information builds into actionable psychology for consumer protection and project management. First things first, you really need to know when to put your ego aside. There is a massive, very important difference between safe DIY and a job meant for the pros. Yes, absolutely. Grab your own toolbox if you're just replacing a little faucet aerator or maybe tightening a loose fitting under the sink. Go for it. But the very second you're dealing with gas lines, main water lines, or literally anything that legally requires a permit, stop. Improper DIY on these complex systems doesn't just ruin your weekend, it can lead to massive catastrophic water damage. And guess what? If you did the work unpermitted and unlicensed, your insurance might not cover a single dime of it.
Now, when you finally do make that call to a professional, you need to pay very close attention to your own words. Never, ever say, "I'm in a desperate rush." Seriously, even if water is actively pulling around your ankles in the basement, keep your cool. Because saying this specific phrase instantly signals to a bad contractor that you have absolutely zero leverage and that you will blindly accept their inflated panic pricing. Don't give them that power.
And while we're at it, here are a few other phrases you should just completely scrub from your vocabulary when you're negotiating. I got multiple estimates, here is the lowest bid. Look, saying this just triggers a race to the bottom on quality. You're basically telling them you only care about cheapness, not durability. How about, "Can we skip the permit?" Or, "I'll pay cash for a discount." Both of these phrases just invite off-the-books, zero accountability work. If the repair fails, that contractor vanishes into thin air. And finally, "I know how to do this repair myself." Honestly, this just insults their expertise and creates friction before the job even starts. If you treat them professionally, they're going to prioritize high-quality service for you.
So we've covered the shifting clay soils, the brittle pipes of the past, the true cost of doing business, and the psychological secrets to hiring the exact right person for the job. So I want to leave you with this. Armed with these insider secrets, are you truly prepared the next time the pipes burst, or will you fall victim to panic pricing? Take these lessons, keep them in your back pocket, and you'll always be ready for whatever the ground throws at you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.